As a bit of an aside, there is nothing at all I could find out about the author of today's book, apart from the fact that his real name apparently is George Knight. Given no other information, including date of birth or death, it seems rather difficult to find anything with certainty on such a common name. The book itself is really a melodrama taking place in Wyresdale, England. It originally appeared serialized in Weekly Mail in 1902 before it was published as number 105 of M.A. Donohue's Flashlight Detective series. An odd choice to be sure, as overall the detective elements of this novel are rather somewhat incidental. It is the story of a pair of lovers whom circumstances contrive to try and tear apart, but unlike most stories of this type, this one has two different sets of antagonists opposing the main characters, who intertwine and subsequently end up frustrating each other's attempts at revenge. There are, all told, about 15 characters one has to take note of and memorize their particular mutual sympathies and antipathies, including two romantic couples that we deal with at once, because the more the merrier, I assume. Of course, given the title, there is in fact a fantastically rich, villainous quote-unquote dwarf who wishes to obtain the hand of the female lead by any means necessary, as well as there are villainous German scientists at his beck and call. Before the story starts proper, we have the main character's uncle getting murdered and the village inspector constantly making wrong assumptions and never even coming close to identifying the real killer himself, though that may be because he has the hots for the local chemist's pretty daughter. So much so that he just reveals classified information to her pretty much without provocation. His romantic rival, the chemist's assistant, becomes more useful than the policeman or the main character by revealing the sinister plottings of the Golden Dwarf, the fantastically rich diminutive person already mentioned, in fact. This discovery, coming in a little too late in the novel, is also the most intriguing part of the whole book. You see, before this, the quote-unquote Golden Dwarf was conspiring events to frame the main character for murder, but what he's actually doing all this time is apparently he's conducting inhuman experiments to turn children into giants and dwarfs, the real purpose of which is apparently to eventually deal with his own personal height problem. And yet this utterly horrifying aspect of the story gets ignored for 3/4 of its running time in favor of conspiracies relating to paid false testimony and secret messages engraved on riding whips. And even then it takes up only a few pages at most until we're forced into a dramatic climax involving landmines. It's a pity because that's what I was reading the story for in the first place. As it stands, the book mostly focuses on trying to find out who actually killed the main male character's uncle and exonerating him after he gets imprisoned for it. And that kind of intertwines with the whole conspiracy on the quote-unquote dwarf's part of trying to force the main female character to become his mistress. The main characters are also not much more horrified by the inhuman abominations when they eventually do find them, and even the inspector himself has apparently no idea with what to charge the people responsible. Now, I know Britain in 1902, when this was published, wasn't exactly paradise on earth, but even I think child abduction and inhuman experimentation on children would probably have landed you in the brig even back then. Of course, the inspector would also probably land behind bars, as he let the disfigured children stay locked in their cells and never thought about moving them, which results in all of them dying when the laboratory eventually blows up. The only interesting part of the novel, aside from the aforementioned ungodly experimentation, is that not only do two people who abducted the main character's cousin get away scot-free, but so does one of the Germans who was directly involved with the child experiments. Oh, and he was also an accessory to the murder of the main male character's uncle, Sir Christopher Daring, who, by the way, never even showed up in the book alive, and whose murder the inspector pinned on half the people in the village before he settled it on the main male character. Overall, not even close to what I was hoping it'd be.